as you heard, I am Chiney Ogwumike, and I'm so excited because I'm an Aspen Institute vet, like a number of other people here. In other words, about 2 years ago, I was lucky to join the Project Play Summit in DC, and now I'm super glad to be back. And this time, I got a squad with me, MVPs only. We're here to talk about something that we are all so passionate about, youth sports. And so joining me today, we have a multi-sport athlete, 4-sport varsity athlete in high school. I'm talking about basketball, baseball, track, and football, star running back and receiver. Yes, I did my homework. That took him all the way to Cornell. ESPN president, Jimmy Pitaro. Thanks for joining us, Jimmy.
Great to be here. Thank you.
And next, someone that can do laps around all of us. Right now, I'm talking about cross country, track, and even marathons. So he is built to persevere, as we've seen this latest season, straight out of Duke, NBA Commissioner Adam Silver. Thanks for joining us, Adam.
Thank you. Great to be here.
And last, but certainly not the least, ESPN's newest edition, NBA Analyst. Let's go. Welcome to the family and the recipient of the NBA Sportsmanship Award. We all know about his hops, okay, but you probably don't know they probably originated playing volleyball and football. Right. That's on his youth sports resume. That's how he got that vertical, that vert. It's an amazing career you've had, Vince. That, of course, includes UNC and 8 all-star appearances. I am talking to the one and only legend, new addition to the family, which I'm so excited about, Vince Carter. Hey, Vince.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I get to be a rookie again.
Oh, okay. That's good. I'm not the vet here. We're both equally rookies, so we're on the same team as always. Welcome, everyone, and there's so much to dive into, so let's get started. One of my favorite programs that ESPN launched last year, I'm talking about the Don't Retire Kid campaign that seeks to bring attention to the fact that kids on average were opting out of sports by the age of 11. And I started playing basketball, me personally, myself, at the age of 10, and it completely transformed my life and my sister's lives. So it's so important for kids to continue playing, not just knowing what they might become or what they might stumble into. I was too tall for gymnastics. I was horrible at hoops when I first started, but my parents, they saw a lot of values in it, like hard work, work ethic, camaraderie, that made us stay with it. They told us to stay with it, and we listened, and we're very grateful. And now this campaign, Don't Retire Kid, got a lot of attention. It won a lot of awards and served as a real call to action to keep kids involved in sports. But then, as we've seen, especially when it comes to youth sports over the last few months, the world just got flipped, inside out, upside down. COVID-19 hit, and a lot of, kids were forced to stop playing. And that's obviously for safety, but they were told to stay inside. And a lot of kids could not engage in sports programs that they were coming to love, fall in love with, like me and my sisters did years ago. At least, stop for now. Jimmy, why is the Don't Retire Kid campaign and messaging still so important now more than ever?
Look, we're incredibly proud of the Don't Retire Kid campaign. All of us at ESPN believe that of course, kids should be able to take advantage of all the benefits of sports. And in working with our Project Play partners, we were able to direct parents to incredibly important resources and resources that help their children play sports. And unfortunately, as you alluded to, the message of the campaign is probably more relevant now than it's ever been. And I would say that among all of the terrible impacts of COVID, kids now don't have the same opportunities to stay active. And we've all, look, I personally drive by so many empty fields, and it's so sad to see that on so many levels. And if kids are away from sports for long enough, they very well may retire. And that could be very detrimental to their long-term health or long-term well-being. And it's especially troubling for groups who were already at a disadvantage. 69% of girls did not play team sports on a regular basis. And that number was pre-COVID. So you can imagine what it is now. And so the problem was already very bad, and COVID has made it significantly worse. So yes, quite simply, our work has never been more important. We have to work creatively together as an industry to keep kids playing sports, and while of course at the same time keeping safety as a top priority. Striking that balance is incredibly important.
You're right, Jimmy. Finding creative ways to do this, using, our teamwork and our team power to figure out how we can push forward, and one of the coolest things that I've been a part of, and this comes to Adam, is I'm a member of the Junior NBA Leadership Council. And the NBA has always pushed out this same message, which I love seeing us all in alignment, no matter how we do it on our day-to-day. And this is an inclusive message for both boys and girls, as Jimmy alluded to, which I absolutely love. And I know that the Junior NBA has had to shift its programming in response to COVID-19. Can you talk a little bit about how the NBA, Adam, is really doing this, making this shift, this transition to help youth basketball players in the Junior NBA network stay engaged throughout this pandemic?
Absolutely. So in a nutshell, we're shifting to virtual learning, in the same way, obviously this panel is being conducted, and I couldn't agree more with Jimmy's points and your points, how critically important it is that young people, boys and girls, participate in sports. It's amazing when you see the connection between kids who play sports, and I'm a little biased towards team sports, and particularly then looking at their success as adults in organizational behavior, in the workplace, you name it. I think these fundamental values, so much of us learned as kids, and I think it's obviously incredible to be in the company of two all-stars like you and Vince, but I think the message for kids, and it's really important, is that it's not about necessarily getting into the rarefied air that you guys are in, that it's about participating. And that's one thing that I learned in coming to the NBA. I mean, I've been with the league now for almost 30 years. And I think when I was a kid, in addition to the running you talked about, I played a lot of baseball, but not at a high level, little league, junior league, those kinds of things. But I think I thought as a kid that unless you were going to be great, there was so much emphasis on winning, frankly, that it wasn't clear to me. And I grew up in a household where my father wasn't present. And so I think I, frankly, misunderstood in part why I was participating. It seemed like you were playing to win, and if you didn't win, you lost, and potentially even were a loser. And I think now, as I've gotten to know people like you and Vince over the years, people, again, who are the best in the world at what they do, and you see that, and I wish kids could understand that you guys are just like everybody else. You happen to be incredible at this sport. You're incredible at this sport in part because you were so committed to it and worked so hard at it, but also that your values are no different, and that, especially in a team sport, you may be the best person on your team, and you certainly were at every level before you got to be a pro, and then probably often were as well. But without those teammates, without those coaches, you wouldn't be the people you are today. And so I always think about this at the NBA and WNBA. What else can we do while at the same time we're focusing on the very elite of the elite to convince young people that it's about participation? And so, of course, as Jimmy pointed out, we're in a very difficult time now for youth sports because health and safety is understandably people's top priority. But I will just add that it's also a health issue if kids particularly are not participating in life, and that there are ways in which kids, short of obviously living in a bubble, which I am at the moment, can still participate in sports and remain safe, especially outdoor sports. Basketball played on playgrounds, you go out and, kids can find ways to be socially distant and still, running, which you talked about, which I do, is a fantastic way to stay active. And so people have to make accommodations. And lastly, I'll say where technology is really helpful, I think whether, you're wearing an Apple Watch like I am or a Fitbit or whatever else, that there are ways to add some structure to it where the competition becomes fun, because competition's a value too, that it doesn't mean that you have to win all the time, but it's learning how to compete in life. And I think that even if it's just recording your runs on a daily basis or recording steps or recording activity, I think it gamifies it a bit. And I think that creates sort of additional engagement and excitement for kids.
You know, you're right, Adam, because you talk to Vince or any elite athlete, we learn more through losing. And you know, winning is great. It feels good in the moment, but the way you move forward is by learning losing. And, you know, you mentioned a lot about us during our adolescence and, you know, the important, key, crucial moments you have as a kid and how that shapes and molds you as an adult. And that becomes our responsibility, our own calling. And I know this firsthand because I am lucky and fortunate to have had super supportive parents and role models and figures that helped keep me motivated. And I think there's so many figures out there that help keep kids going, even though it's hard. We have to be a little bit more creative. You're talking to the girl that literally was training in the middle of the pandemic in fields in Texas, next to cows mooing and stuff, but that was home. And we just had to find a safe way to do it. And having my parents there, and even, I promise you to this day, my dad hasn't even changed. He never believes I've ever committed a foul in any game I've played in basketball.
I know, he's called me.
Exactly. And, you know, it's my dad, it's my mom, the devotion that they had that has kept me confident, especially as a girl. That sort of empowered me to step into my own shoes, you know, even working as a broadcaster with ESPN, which Vince knows now a lot about. And Vince, you are a dad and you've helped your kids have fun and also want to stay in sports. Hopefully, you know, that's what their goals are, considering, I mean, they got a great teacher. What did you learn as a young athlete that you want to pass on to the next generation, including your kids?
Well, I'll tell you this, you know, I give a lot of credit to my parents, my mom, you know, she was, you know, on the road traveling, as I'm sure your parents have for you know, I played volleyball, I ran track. You know, I was a kid that wasn't afraid to try sports. And that was because my mom instilled in me, hey, don't be afraid to try other sports. And I know it's different now, and it's mind-boggling to me to hear kids or see kids kind of focusing on one particular sport at such a young age, when all of these other sports can develop your quote unquote go-to sport. Because for me, I felt basketball, I knew basketball was something I wanted to do professionally, but I wanted to enhance my abilities and my skills any way possible. So volleyball was perfect for me. And it started, I walked into the gym, kind of a joke, hey guys, I'm gonna go in there and try out for the team. And as I learned more about it, I understood how it would help me as a basketball player. But for my kids, you know, my daughter is 15 and she started off at the age of 4 playing tennis, and she got good at it and she was burnt out at 11. But she was good at it. And the thing I wanted for her is to enjoy it. And everybody, I'm sure you're going to go through it, and all athletes with their kids, they go through the, you know, they go through this, they get this question. Hey, is your kid's going to play basketball like you, or is your kid going to play your sport? And for me, I never to this day have introduced the game of basketball to any of my kids. They pick it up on their own if they choose to. And my daughter at first didn't look at a basketball. She didn't look at a basketball. And as she got to the age of 6, she asked me if she could be in my basketball camp, because that's when it started at 6 years old to 17. And then next thing you know, it was just kind of a social thing. Oh, basketball, cool, because dad plays it. I go to a few games, whatever. And she picks up tennis. And she transitions from tennis into volleyball, which she's currently playing now. And basketball's on the side. I remember the day she came up to me and said, like, Dad, can I be in your basketball camp? And then she's like, Dad, I'm gonna try in high school, middle school. She said, Dad, I'm gonna try for the middle school team. I'm like, what? What a present surprise. And then you get to my son, he's 3. He is addicted to golf. He's addicted to golf. And, you know, but dad plays it and he sees it. So my kids, so for me, I'm like, try all the sports, whatever you want to do. My daughter, I think the reason she transitioned out of tennis into volleyball, because it's a team sport. And she's a team sport. She's a supporter. She's one of those girls. She's a leader. She likes to help her teammates persevere. Help her teammates succeed, and to see her team do well as her. And then perseverance is just being able to find a way through the tough times. And like you said, when you're losing, how do you get better? And the film doesn't lie.
Yeah, it never lies. That's why we are watching it ad nauseum in the pros. And perseverance is so key because we all know when it comes to sports, it's different barriers to entry. And we all have different, sports journeys growing up.
Mm-hmm.
And what I love about the Don't Retire Kid campaign and even the Junior NBA Global Championship, I'm Nigerian American, being able to make sports accessible globally, where basketball is always on the up and up because of the mission. It's been so important for all youth around the world. And Jimmy, you've been extremely vocal about ensuring that diversity and inclusion is a priority at ESPN. I mean, just to keep it real, I am a living, breathing product of your leadership and your mission, being the first Black woman and WNBA player to have a national radio show at ESPN. How does that mission for diversity and inclusion translate to the work that ESPN is doing in the community, especially underserved communities?
So let me be clear. It's not only a priority, it's our number one focus. We talk about expanding our audience and quality storytelling and programming, but diversity, inclusion, belonging, that's our number one focus at ESPN and also at the Walt Disney Company. Just to reiterate, we know that Black children have less access to sports than their white peers. Hard stop, just a fact. So yes, in my opinion, this is a social justice issue. And since we started our access to sports strategy about, I believe, 6 years ago, making sure that kids from all backgrounds and just as importantly, all abilities can play has been a priority for us and really has been our North Star in this area. And so this year we are taking it a step further, and I'm happy to report that we'll continue to ensure that our social investments are going to those who need it the most. And as we move forward here, at least 60% of all the social investments that we make at ESPN will be towards two youth investment strategies, access to sports and empowerment through sports. And in terms of each of those, that 60% will benefit Black and African-American youth for a total of at least $1 million. So we're pretty excited about that.
That's amazing. That's tremendous. And if I may, to follow that up, you mentioned that ESPN has been enabling access to sports for years now. And this audience knows, how incredibly important it is, sports being to the development of, children, from helping kids improve their academic performance to building skills. I know, Vince knows all the benefits we've received from sports. And especially as a woman, I can tell you that this has helped me twice over, instilling confidence from a young age. What power does playing sports have for the youth?
So look, obviously a completely different level than you and Vince. Let's just be very clear here. Let me start with that. But I talk about this all the time, though. Playing team sports has been incredibly valuable, incredibly impactful to me throughout my entire life, throughout my career. I learned so much on the court and on the field that has helped me to get to where I am today. I honestly probably learned more by being part of a team in my youth than I did through all the classrooms combined that I was in. Education is incredibly important, but being a part of a team has been incredibly valuable to me personally. And I know I'm not alone there. One study that was recently put in front of me showed that 9 in 10 female CEOs played sports at some point in their lives. And when Black, brown, and other kids of color don't have that same opportunity, when girls don't have that same opportunity, that's fundamentally wrong. There's a problem there, and it's up to all of us who are in these positions, media executives, league executives, talent, athletes. It's up to all of us to make sure that kids have the same opportunities that I had growing up. And so that's why we created the Sports for Life program at ESPN. We did it in partnership with the Women's Sports Foundation. And it's a program that looks to increase participation in sports for Black and Hispanic girls while helping them to build in important life skills, and that's things like leadership, self-esteem, confidence, perseverance. And since we began here, since its inception, we've contributed about $1.4 million to this program, and we've impacted over 60,000 girls in 34 sports. And so we take a ton of pride in those numbers, but at the same time, we're also just getting started here.
You know, Jimmy, I always say you cannot be who you cannot see. And I am so proud to work with ESPN because we're constantly pushing and finding innovative ways to enhance our women's coverage. You know, ensuring girls have access to sports has been a focus of the WNBA, the NBA, and the Junior NBA as well. Can you talk about what Junior NBA is doing to help advance youth girls basketball?
You know, again, there's been a bit of a setback because of what's going on in the pandemic. But I think by virtue of having a WNBA, and to your point, that those young girls being able to see women like yourselves, real role models in sports, we've been able to take all of our programs and in essence make them co-ed. And where many of the NBA programs, certainly when I first got involved in the league, there was sort of this notion, well, this is the NBA, so this is for boys. But now these programs are available for everyone. And I said, when we started, we're in the process of moving them all into virtual applications. And I think incidentally, those types of applications don't have to go away when the pandemic's over, because they do create people into larger communities. And I'll just use the example of myself. As I hear the stories of all you participating in team sports, Chiney, as you said in my introduction, I was more of a runner and I did things that were more solitary other than play baseball. And in retrospect, I wish there had been someone pushing me to be more involved in team sports. And I feel like now as an adult, again, I've been with the NBA for close to 30 years, that this whole league is a team sport.
And one of the biggest champions of our league, our game of women's basketball, apart from Jimmy and Adam, has also been, the late, great Kobe Bryant. And Kobe was one of the best ambassadors we've ever seen, not just for women in sports, but just women pushing boundaries and taking that Mamba mentality and applying it to every aspect of their life. And Vince, I know you've played against Kobe for years and you've seen his impact on the game. And then, years later, we start to discover what he was doing for the women's game in particular. You speak a lot of your daughter, and just seeing the confidence that she's been able to step into is truly beautiful. What do you think, and what have you experienced with, Kobe's legacy, sort of not only just being limited to what he's done on the court, but also how he's impacted the women's game and women's sports in general off the court as well?
I tell you what, I'm just going to speak on the one moment. We were playing the New Jersey Nets in New Jersey, and he was sitting courtside with Gigi. And getting the opportunity to kind of talk to him and just catch up and seeing how happy he was. And we were just talking about, retirement, what he was up to. And he said one of the best things about being retired was getting the opportunity to coach and watch his daughters and the team he's coaching of the young ladies grow. And he was, because obviously he knew I had a daughter. He's like, you watch, you'll see how great it is and how you enjoy it. And that conversation was one of the things that helped me be able to say the word retirement. Just to seeing how happy Kobe Bryant, with the Mamba mentality, who didn't have many friends and didn't talk to anybody, turned into the father figure, girl dad. When he talked about just what his excitement for just helping her grow, you could just see him melting right there in front of everybody. And it was just great to see. And for me, it's great to watch my kid play. Obviously, I can't be in the gym when she's playing her volleyball matches. So I sit right here in this spot watching her virtually, and I'm going crazy over here. And it's just great to see and support. And I tell you, sports and for girls getting the opportunity to play sports on a high level and see high level athletes that they can look up to, the confidence that they have in a male-driven, male-dominant world. Like my daughter now can go into her classroom, walk around campus, and feel good about herself because of the success or being a part of a team sport. Or you look at this when you're in high school, you walk around like, oh, she's on the varsity team, and the respect that you're given and the confidence you have walking around because you're respected because you're on a a team or on the high school team of whatever, freshman to varsity, it doesn't matter. And you see that in girls, and it's just great to see. My boy plays in a soccer league. There's one girl on that team, and she might be the toughest one of them all. Like, she runs around, she's knocking these boys down like it's nothing. It's just great to see, because like you said, years ago, you didn't see boys and girls integrated together. Now you will see that. She's the only one, she's the smallest one, and she's running these kids over. And I love it.
I love it. And it all comes down to one thing that you said, Vince: respect. That's all that we want. And investment, which I wish we could do a virtual fist pound, Adam, because we got that investment. Appreciate you as always. A lot of the metrics show that the women's game is truly growing. And speaking of which, and returning again to my nerdy nature, the Aspen Institute just released its National State of Play report, which includes national data captured just before COVID-19 shut down sports. And it shows real progress was made over the last year in the KPI, which is the key play indicators at the center of Project Play, national participation rates, which include a lift in the percentage of low-income kids playing, and training rates also for coaches. Jimmy, what does that tell you about the value of collective impact and also organizations working together to attack a complex problem?
I'll start by thanking my partners across the industry. I think the way our sports industry has rallied together over the last 6 months has just been incredible. From our response to social justice and racism to helping those affected by COVID, it's just been an incredible example of the power of collective impact and the power of the sports industry that we're all working in. And, you know, to bring this back to ESPN, I mean, look, we're so proud to work with the leagues and work with our business partners to help move the needle on these critical issues. And look, we know that there's not one answer to solve the problem that we're all talking about right now. And no one organization, no one league, no one media company can tackle these complex problems alone. And it's imperative that we all work together. And I'd say it's also worth calling out that the future of the sports industry, the future of the industry that we're working in, depends on this next generation. The more that kids enjoy sports at a young age, the more likely they will be future sports fans as adults. We talk about this all the time at ESPN. So for the sake of our industry, but more importantly, much more importantly, for the future health and well-being of our children, we have to work together to keep kids active and engaged and playing sports, and we are.
How do you see the collective impact happening now in real time, Adam?
Well, it's a good question. I mean, it's hard in a pandemic, quite honestly, you know, and I agree with Jimmy that we need to approach it in a very data-focused way, and to understand where we should be putting our resources and what it is that's going to work. I think during this extraordinary time, I think we should be doing everything we can, and it'll be tough to really understand how what we're doing virtually is truly having an impact. But then coming out of it, I think that we got to focus our resources on ways that that are truly going to have an impact. I mean, I think that, speaking of data, I think the stories you've all told, you know, and the data you've cited is absolutely clear. I've seen similar data, and as I mentioned earlier, in terms of participation in youth sports as a kid, and then success as an adult, you know, and as a leader, you know, in terms of your ability to adapt in an organization. So, you know, I don't think we should overthink it at the moment. I think that health and fitness benefits are well known. You know, we have childhood obesity and diabetes issues that cut across socioeconomic lines. So it's not just a function, you know, of poor rich families. It's more correlated to inactivity, you know, and poor food choices. And last issue I'll mention that I'm particularly proud of is that, you know, because a few NBA and WNBA players have been willing to speak out about mental wellness issues, that's been added to our curriculum. I mean, Vince and I have talked about this several times, so that now, where in youth basketball programs, where going back to when I first got in the league, those programs were more about specific skills. Then they broadened to be more about physical fitness, but now they're about mental wellness as well. And, but not in a overly intrusive way, more questions that coaches and leaders are trained to ask kids about their sleep patterns, and how they're doing at home, and making sure that they know that it's just like, Vince was saying that the varsity athletes are cool, that there's nothing wrong with speaking up as a kid and saying, I'm struggling in these areas, or, I'm anxious, I'm sad all the time. And I think that can be when I think we look back to your question about outcomes at what we're able to do in youth sports, I think that's one that we may be talking the most about. And that's it, training young people to be more connected with their feelings, and the confidence that, to the extent they're feeling things that they think make them different than their classmates, that it doesn't make them abnormal in any way, that they're perfectly normal. And in fact, those are very likely thoughts that the seemingly confident kids are having too.
Right. Yeah. I totally agree, because I've always told people that now we're in this special seminal moment where we're finally realizing that our differences are no longer weaknesses. Our differences collectively are our strengths. And to bring this home, we talked Don't Retire Kid and youth sports programs like the Junior MBA. And since you've just retired, Vince, and have mentioned your own children, which is the next generation, this is all hitting you full circle. Why does teamwork amongst all partners matter now more than ever?
Well, that teamwork is what it is. I mean, when, like you said, when you're struggling, you're having an off day, off night on the court in sports, whatever, you have somebody to pick you up and support you. I tell you what, the content with social media, the social media that has created so much content for young kids to go on, and kids now, they're always on the YouTube, and they're all somewhere. You can now look up the content of your favorite athletes, or athletes you don't know, who are what we consider the stars of stars, like a Kevin Love and DeMar DeRozan. These guys are speaking out on their issues, which gives these young kids confidence now to be able to talk about their issues. And I've seen, and I wish I could remember the young man's name. There's a kid in high school, basketball player, who came out to talk about his mental health issues because of the confidence and the content he had from the DeMar DeRozan or some of these other athletes. So teamwork and just knowing you have someone supporting you and on your side at all times, it's extremely important. And I think that's why my daughter transitioned into team sports, because for as many good days you have bad days that kind of weigh on you a little more than the good days sometimes, and you want somebody to help uplift you. And sometimes it's your parents or friends can't do it, but you can go on social media and receive all of this content. And that is a part of teamwork, because of the people who are willing to share their issues that they've gone through to the world to help someone that you don't even know.
You're right. Access to information and access to support systems is our strength now, especially virtually. And we're right now here with partners who have made that a huge priority. Once again, it truly takes a team to create change for the next generation. Jimmy, Adam, Vince, thank you so much for your commitment to youth sports so that the next generation can break our records, both on and off the court, on and off the field, and build a better world. And once again, thank you to the Aspen Institute for bringing us all together.